Hey, what's with that fogginess there? Is my screen camera a little dirty? To clean it off better? Look at this. This is the disease. That's the disease on me. That's what that is. Ugh. Anyway, I just had a little snack, and while I was eating, it occurred to me to tell you that I am the most feared person in America. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. It's true, it's true, it's true. It's true, it's true, it's true. When you look at the caliber of people in broadcasting, politics, government, and law that are actually afraid to deal with my truth or even tell my story or talk about what's happened to me, when you realize that, you realize that I'm so powerful. I'm so powerful and so feared that people run away from me rather than deal with me and the truth of my reality, which is important and relevant to the lives of all Americans. Rather than do that, our leaders have decided to pretend that I do not even exist. They've decided that I will be a shadow person. And, you know, they haven't killed me. Although I think Tina Ainley in the Scottsdale, Arizona's, I think they really tried to. I think they wanted to kill me. I'm pretty sure of that. But somehow they have not been allowed to just take me out. They have not been allowed to just kill me and take me out. Yet, they will not tell my story. They will not deal with the truth of what I'm going through. Look how uneven my complexion is. All this is the disease. That's the disease coming through. When the infestation is low, that discoloration goes away, but that could actually be the bioweapons. Yeah, I think they're just waiting for me to die from these bioweapons. But while they're waiting, it occurred to me how much power I really have in America, because everyone's afraid of my story. Everyone is afraid of the truth that I can tell. They're afraid. Now, when people fear you, it's because you have power. And the power that I've got is the power to tell the truth about what it is to be an elite American on the wrong side of the politics. An elite American that is not a European nationalist. That's the story that I'm telling. And I'm all alone in it. Even the black press isn't able to participate. Even they fear me. All the people with the power to broadcast stories, who are actually broadcasting stories about Americans. I don't look much better, do I? Oh, well. All those people are deliberately ignoring me. They are not telling me my story. So while I was, microwaving some fresh corn to eat here at 3:00 in the morning in Houston, Texas, it occurred to me, they're afraid of you. All those brave American heroes, they're hovering over there across the line. Because I've been telling this story for 9 years now. And I've told it to plenty of people, and they're just biding their time. And each level that ignores me just seems to project me into something worse, right? And it's because they fear me. You fear to stand by me. You fear to defend me. You fear to protect me. And you're willing to deal with what happens after that. Well, just like there has been a domino effect to my persecution, there's a domino effect to this entire event. You think that all these systems are working against just me? You think all these people decided that they're just going to work against me? Or do you think that they're executing a system that if you're successful enough and you do not support the European nationalist agenda, you'll find yourself persecuted just like me? But I don't think they're using me as an example. I think they can't catch up with me. That's what I think. Now, I've learned a lot about alternative realities since this has happened to me, because I really took America literally. I really thought that America was the land of the free and the home of the brave. I really thought that public broadcasting told the important stories about our people, important stories about our age. I even believed that broadcasting was working for the people to tell us things we needed to know to stay safe. You know, like there's going to be a tornado. This is what you do when a tornado comes. Well, shouldn't they tell you if you go to college, you'll be plagiarized, especially if you go to the Ivy League? And if you go to Northwestern University, the administration will let private citizens invade your machine. I mean, when computer hackers are identified by witnesses, shouldn't that be news? But no, it isn't news. And because of all I know, and because of all of the cowards that fear to stand with me, I am the most feared person in this country. I am the most feared person because of my life story. My life story makes me the most feared person in America. So my question for you is does that make me the most important? Am I the most important person in America? Because my story is a story of so much abuse of power that if my story were to be told, Americans' reputation would just crumble into dust, especially the Europeans. And any idea that the courts and the governments were out to protect us and our rights to land would just fall into dust. Because my story proves all of that to be lies, doesn't it? You know, I quit counting on any inheritance, but I was counting on it before. You know, after I went to graduate school for my third career, you know, I was almost 50 when I finally realized that they were going to just keep me running, just like Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. They were just going to keep me running until I gave out. So I wanted that inheritance because I figured once I got my hands on that money, I will bring Harvard and Yale to their knees. I will take that tiger by the tail and shake it, and they won't be able to get to me because I'll be in a fortress that I buy with my money. And I'll hire sycophants. Only they won't be sycophants, they'll be heroes. I'll hire American heroes. And I'll protect my land and my people. You want to know why they went so hard after me in Arizona? Because the Europeans want all that sand to make silicone. Elon Musk had a big factory taking up a lot of land. Arizona Power had a big lot of land, and all that land is deeded and entitled to the Americans. When I went to where the Apaches live, only the government installation looked good. Every other home there was falling apart. And the people, they were having so many drugs shipped in and no food. Couldn't find an orange. But if you wanted some meth, somehow the Europeans created a trade route to be sure that the Indian villages had plenty of drugs, plenty of facilities to treat diabetes, and plenty of despair and a lack of development. When I talked to the Indians in northern Arizona, the Americans there, I said, hey, how come you don't just build a souvenir shop? Your silver work is beautiful. You know what they told me? They won't let us. They only let the Europeans develop American land. And that's the same thing I'm facing with some of my inheritances. They won't even let us change the title. Now, to me, if everybody in America were to hear my story in a public broadcast, it would change overnight. So many thieves would be driven out of business just like that, driven out of business because they could not stand up to the truth. And I happen to believe that most people are moral, given the chance. I don't think people want to see their lives given over to bullies and thieves and psychopaths. Now, maybe it's just me. But I don't want to see a world given over to psychopaths. If you haven't seen the 8 show yet, you might want to see just how far things went when somebody had ultimate power because of their economic status. Well, they've denied me my economic status. They've denied it to me several times. When Sheldon Epstein cheated me out of a corporate law career, he cheated me out of a lucrative future. When the computer science industry was regulated by Senator Moynihan and third-party contractors were reduced to becoming employees instead of their own businessman, that impacted my financial future. When I became a stay-at-home mother and I didn't get compensated for that, that costed me, but I contributed to society. I was a girl. Why wasn't I paid to be a Girl Scout leader? Wasn't I paid to be a volunteer in Connecticut mental health? Why wasn't I paid for my civic activities? Because it's volunteer. And I didn't complain about it until I discovered how hard I worked in all of my life and how easily I was robbed. I wasn't living my life counting on my mother to die. My mother didn't drink. She didn't smoke. She didn't exercise enough. That's true. But I know a 101-year-old woman that I interviewed in Chicago, and she didn't exercise much. She was chubby, and she was over 100. Okay? So I don't think chubby would have killed my mom, and she could have changed that. So I wasn't expecting my mother to die young. I was expecting my mother to live a very long time, especially with her rich lady health care and her lifestyle. But she died relatively young, if you ask me, and I still wonder, if her death wasn't helped along somehow. And, some magic has a scientific basis, Some magic can make people very sick. And I'm not going to talk about that anymore right now. I'm just going to say that I left off in my first part of the story, this ignored to death, that my mother wanted Andre around as she was dying. She really wanted Andre to be there and hold her hand while she was dying and dealing with all the fear and trauma. And she would call him and he just ghosted her. And that was when my mother knew that Andre really hated her, that he had just been pretending all that time that he cared about her, because that's something a psychopath can do. A psychopath can make you think they love you, and you'll think that that psychopath loved you better than anybody you ever knew. You know, Juan loved me better than anybody I ever knew, and Juan's a psychopath because he actually got to know me. You know, when people would pick on me in public, he would protect and defend me instead of being embarrassed. You know, like my husband would. He would be embarrassed. He wouldn't defend me or protect me. He'd be embarrassed. So when Juan protected me, that just made me feel swoony. I was like, oh, right? So I still think of Juan with love. Juan got to know me. Juan would ask me questions about myself. Juan would take me places just to show me a good time. And he always treated me with the courtesy of a gentleman because he was from the upper classes, Argentinian Jews that immigrated to America and wound up in the Ivy League. They just walked into positions of power. His father just walked into a position at Yale Medical School as an executive, and his mother just walked into a position at Yale Graduate School as a Spanish professor. I mean, they just came from Argentina, stopped by Madrid, Spain, came to America, and they were made. Just like that. They were made. Because Christina Hortzman Hernandez was descended from the Nazis that left Germany and went to Argentina, where they continued to do their world domination plan. Juan showed me an entire community of Argentinian Jews living in Orange, West Haven, and Woodbridge, Connecticut. And they really looked at me with contempt and dismissal. They weren't admiring me for being a real American. No, they saw me as the enemy. And they had very nice homes and houses. Now, when I went to Arizona, and I went in the middle of gold country. I mean, there's so much gold near Globe, Arizona, that just regular people had gold mines. Just regular people had gold mines. But the Apache Indians, the Indians that people like Hazel Carby at Yale University, she publishes to the whole world that real Americans are dead. But they aren't. We aren't dead, but they're really trying to kill us. So when I'm there in Arizona and the elites really start to send their guard after me, and now they want to lock me up. They'd already been following me, robbing my apartment, putting me through so much grief, putting me on the expensive electric plan instead of the electric plan for insiders, which was cheaper. Putting me in a housing situation where my rent goes up and up and up and up and up. And then they refuse to honor my lease because I called the police to protect me from the gang stalkers too much. You see, it's loco. It makes no sense whatsoever. But I was feared. I was feared because of my social media publications. On Facebook primarily. That was before I moved to Twitter. And then I had to leave Twitter after Elon Musk continued to shadow ban me. I mean, don't you think he should have recognized me for having more tweets than anyone else? 68,000 tweets just in a couple of years. He should have given me an award. He should have given me something. Instead, I got shadow banned. If you searched for me, you would have to know how to take the filters off your search to stop the censorship that is the default that they don't tell you about. When I search for myself, I don't come up unless I take off the filter for sensitive information. I was considered sensitive. Do you want to know what made me sensitive? My exposing the European nationalist network that was stealing land in Arizona from the Indians and stealing water from the reservation lands. And then today on the Young Turks, I heard that one of the European corporations has started a major semiconductor factory in Arizona on unclaimed lands or uninhabited lands. All of those lands belong to the tribes, but they won't let real Americans participate in the economic system. They only want Europeans made wealthy. And you can be a European from anywhere in the world and you can get a seat at the table, but not if you're an American. You see? And I am an American. I'm a real American. I got nothing but American blood. Okay, a few Europeans sneaked in, but they didn't take responsibility for us, did they? Don't you think I'm still entitled to inherit that land? Don't you think I'm still entitled to be an heir of Martin Edwards of North Carolina? Don't you think I'm still entitled to be an heir of my great-great-grandfathers that are Europeans? Or do you think that racial discrimination that was legalized by the Europeans in this nation should continue to be legal? Or do you think some legal retroaction needs to take place? Do you see why I am feared? Do you see why they don't want me to get my billions of dollars? Do you see why they don't want me to get out of here? Why they want me to be subjected to biological weapons that eat my flesh and burrow holes in my teeth? They want me here because I am the most feared person in America. I am feared because of the truth of my life. My life is a testament to European nationalist racism and the corruption that they bring. And as long as we pretend that this does not exist, like a snake in the grass, it can bite and kill us before we even get a chance to recognize the threat. So I, Silver Rain Runningcloud, born Letha Llewellyn Deck, am the most powerful person in America because the most powerful people in America fear me. They fear my story. They fear the truth I tell. But that's not going to save me, is it? I mean, as long as I'm ignored, I'm being ignored to death. You know, there are lots of noise of people outside my door tonight, even though it's 3 o'clock in the morning, because the kids are out of school now. So all the juvenile delinquents are starting to hang around the hotel. And if they want to be criminals, that's their business, because I really don't belong here. But as long as I'm in a nation filled with cowards that refuse to stand with me, that refuse to listen to the truth, a real American autobiography, then I'm just here by myself. But I'm warning you, you'll be next if you succeed. And I don't know how many victims there will be before our entire society is run by bullies and criminals and psychopaths. How long will it be? And do you want to live in a world of psychopaths, a world run by psychopaths? You might want to ask yourself that as you continue to ignore me. You know, there are people in this country who have the power to elevate me from this position where I'm being tortured to death, imprisoned, all because I'm an American heir against European nationalist racism and everything that comes with it. I don't want to see foreign corporations moving in, stealing real American land and leaving real Americans to die from drugs, homelessness, poverty, imprisonment, and the subtlety of the actions that are taken against me. You see, I was affluent, so they couldn't just grab me off the street and lock me up. Because I was affluent, they had to decrease me little by little by little until I'm crawling on the ground. But what about all of the people that pretend they're decent, the people that pretend they're bringing you the truth of life in America every single day? What about their cowardice? Not one person that does any kind of broadcasting, not one person with a broadcasting platform, not one has asked to interview me. Because I am the most feared person in America. Everybody with a platform knows about me, but they ignore me to death because they are afraid that if they stand with me, if they stand with the truth, if they stand with happiness for America, if they stand with morality, that the evil psychopaths in power will destroy them and lead them to their deaths. They're afraid they'll lose their money if they stand by me. They're afraid that what happened to me will happen to them. So not one of them will take the first step. Sometimes I think that the day I die, all those cowards are going to make a broadcast, and then they'll start telling my story and making a money off my story because my story is just that good and just that important and just that relevant. When Tina Ainley at the Arizona Superior Court of Arizona actually violated my human rights again and again and again and again, I couldn't believe it, and I was 65. But because the system had never been tested by a person with enough power in social media and enough communication skills to articulate and enough legal skills to know, that had never been there before. She was used to preying on people that Arizona educated to not know anything, that Arizona law enforcement had beaten down since they were teens. She was used to dealing with people that were already bullied and intimidated. People that weren't even going to try to fight. They were just going to hope that they could get out alive. And then came me, Silver Rain Runningcloud. Then came I. And Tina Ainley openly violated my human rights. She openly used her power in the law to be sure that my persecution by the Arizona state troopers, by the European law enforcement, to make sure that it would stick and that I would be silenced. Because all those businessmen in Scottsdale from the Israeli countries and all those Germans at the Colorado River state parks, they had already decided they were going to steal the land from the Indians, from the Apaches and the Hopis and the Navajo, from the Pima Indians, from all the Indians that occupied Arizona, the Incas. There were Incas there too. They'd already decided that they were going to build aqueducts and have the water run right past the American communities, run right past it to enrich the Europeans. They built golf courses everywhere where dirty, toothless Europeans would be riding around on golf carts when they knew you were coming, because their spies on the road said you've got one coming in. I saw so many brand new golf courses with waterworks everywhere because they were taking that water from Lake Mead and from all the Indian reservations, Roosevelt Lake, and all the Indian waters, even just little ponds with barely a name. They were siphoning all that water out so they could create aqueducts because they want to charge everybody for water. That's what the Europeans want. That's what they want to do to America. And the ones that don't know about it, they're not going to find out as long as I'm silenced, are they? I mean, all the good Europeans that wouldn't stand for these kinds of abuses, they're not even going to know. But they are going to know that somehow they have privileges and I don't. They are going to know that when they go to the airport to take a trip, most of the people are European and they won't see many real Americans in the crowd. They'll know that. And they'll know that they really don't work that hard to get all those privileges. And if they've ever met a person like me, they'll also know that they don't deserve it because I'm better than them. Okay? I'm better. I'm smarter. I work harder. I used to look better, but, I'm old and wounded from the war. And they threw me here at the bottom of the world with all these criminals and thugs right outside my door. And all of the American military FEMA camp administrators waiting to shoot me with their next biological weapon. But I'm still the most feared person in America. And that makes me the most powerful.